The GLP-1 pill you've been waiting for is now on Ro. Yep, it's finally here. With the same clinically proven ingredient. Now in a pill. And now on Ro. It's the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss. At the lowest price available. That's one daily GLP-1 pill for big results. Now on Ro. Go to ro.co/listen to see if you qualify. RX only. Go to ro.co/safety for serious side effects and boxed warning associated with GLP-1s.
The Murder Shelf Book Club contains disturbing content related to real-life crimes. Listener discretion is advised.
Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
I don't want you to write false information because I lied and manipulated everyone. I know that you have to write how I lied so much and manipulated everybody. I don't want you to write that I committed all my crimes in a dissociative fugue state. It's true I don't remember everything. I do have some black spots, but I do remember committing most of the crimes. The times I don't remember, I was usually very drunk. The reason why I did so many terrible things, I can only say that I am just an attention-craving, chaos-causing wacko. I'm going to ask my therapist, what is a psychopath and sociopath? I wonder if that's what I really am. From Shadows in Fire by Judith A. Yates. Welcome to the Murder Shelf Book Club podcast. I am your host, Jill. Today, I have a very special episode because I have a very special guest and friend, Judith A. Yates, author extraordinaire of really great true crime books. Judith A. Yates is in the Dallas area and is a member of the Texas Association of Licensed Investigators and the Tennessee Corrections Association. In addition to writing books, she has worked in loss prevention, at the Sheriff's Department, and in the federal prison system. And through teaching collegiate-level courses, she's also provided guidance to future criminologists. Additionally, she's been a guest expert on A&E, Oxygen, and the ID channel, so you may have seen her. Now, Judith has published a number of books, including She is Evil, Madness and Murder in Memphis, Bullied to Death, the story of bullying, social media, and the suicide of Cherokee Harriman, which I highly recommend. Last year, she released Irina Gressa, Becoming the Hyena of Auschwitz. Well, for full disclosure, I was a source for the Irina Gressa book, given my expertise in Holocaust history and education, and provided information and photographs from my personal collection for Judith. And I humbly submit that it is a top-notch book. Today, Judith is discussing her newest book, Shadows in Fire, which delves into the story of Shirley Winters, a little-known female serial killer and convicted arsonist. Shirley is unique among the rare cases of female serial killers, and until now, she has never spoken to anyone outside law enforcement. Now, I thought this was an interesting coincidence. Guess who is the DA involved in the Shirley Winters prosecution? It is DA Bill Fitzpatrick, the same prosecutor featured in my trilogy, While She Slept by Marion Collins, which tells the story of the murder of Jill Cahill, episodes 159, 161, and 162. I mean, we just wrapped up that story, and now Mr. Fitzpatrick is back. So with that little tidbit, Judith A. Yates, I'd like to welcome you to the Murder Shelf Book Club podcast.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoy your podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad you're doing this. You have a new book that'll be coming out shortly, Shadows in Fire, and it is about a serial killer that I am not familiar with, so I am very intrigued.
Well, she's not really well known simply because she never gave an interview outside of speaking with law enforcement or legal people or what have you. And she's never really talked to anyone outside of her realm, so to speak. I'm the first journalist, first author that she has ever spoken with. And she's kind of purposely stayed, off the wire, so to speak.
If she's really protected her privacy here and stayed on the down low, how did you get her to talk with you?
So I was doing a project, a study that I wanted to accomplish on female serial killers. And I contacted all of them across the United States. Most of them wanted money. Most of them, got cheeky about it. And Shirley was the only one who answered me. She really didn't discuss her crimes, but she's from a farming community. So we started writing, and I was telling her, I live on a hobby farm of rescue animals. So we had that in common. And she told me a little bit about her life, and I told her, this has the trappings of a book, because a good friend of mine told me once, he said, never write a story just to write a story.
That's fair.
Yeah, have a story behind it. Well, in Shirley's case, that was the impact of child abuse and mental illness on a life of crime. But there's so much more to it because she's very rare. She's female, first of all. She's a serial killer, and she's a serial arsonist. But there are some places where she doesn't quite fit into the category of a quote-unquote typical or a profile of a serial killer or a serial arsonist. And eventually she said, or she wrote to me, and this is in the book, I think I could tell you about my life, some bad, some sad, some good. And we started writing, and there's a system in the prison called JPay, where inmates can send emails. She tried JPay, she bought a typewriter, which malfunctioned, and then when she moved to a hospital, we were able to make phone calls. So we have stayed in touch now for, going on 7 years. And it wasn't until the second year or so that she really started opening up and telling me things.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure you get a letter from some random person saying, tell me all of your secrets. And the answer is going to be, no, but I'm going to tell you all kinds of crazy until the rapport and the trust was built up.
I caught her lying once, and I knew she was lying simply because of the way she wrote and not necessarily what was said, but how it was said. And I let it go. And then she contacted me and said, I apologize. I just told you a bunch of lies about this. And she felt terrible about it. Here I had put, and I told her, I said, I'm trusting you as much as you're trusting me.
Yeah, really.
So breaking that trust, she got very, very upset, still occasionally apologizes for it. And I explained to her, okay, this is once, and we'll let this go because of the situation.
That's very interesting. You don't hear about serial killers, male or female, apologizing to anybody for anything short of being in court and being very manipulative.
Right. Now, Shirley is a lifelong inmate. She has spent the majority of her life behind bars or in a psychiatric hospital. So she has learned how to manipulate quite well. And one of the things she admitted to me was how all these years she has manipulated the system with her psychiatric self-reports. And she said, I don't want you to, she had fugue states. And she said, I don't want you to write that all my crimes were committed in a fugue state or that something was wrong with me mentally, because that's not true. And, how do I know she's telling me the truth? Well, realistically, how do we know anybody's telling us the truth?
True.
So I'm relying on her. Now, some of it is difficult to get a secondary source because a lot of the people have passed away. her parents, for example, her family mostly gone. But as much as I can, I have verified what she has told me. And that's really all an author can do.
Yeah, really. How would you, short of access to police records and things like that, yeah, you'd have to verify what you can. And it sounds like you tried to do that.
I got pretty deep with this one. I went back years. I went back to the 1960s for police reports and newspaper reports and images and such. And I feel like, to the best of Shirley's ability, she has told me the truth. And the reason I say that is because she has been under a lot of medication. She's a substance abuser. And she's also a professional inmate, is what I call. So to the best of her ability, I feel like she has told me the truth. And that's, again, all anybody can do.
Well, there are always shades of the truth depending on a person's perspective as well. And with those filters lying over it, child abuse, mental health issues, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
So now she is not only a serial killer, but a serial arsonist.
Yes. She has been linked to at least 17 fires. Now, it is rare that any of us are linked to a fire. If we've been linked, and when I say linked, I mean your house burned down, your neighbor's house burned down, the mall caught fire while you were there, that sort of scenario. But she has been linked to at least 17. And she is responsible for at least 4 deaths. So, again, that in and of itself is quite the record, because think about it, we're all susceptible to being exposed to death. But causing a death is a whole other cat. And causing a death purposely and willingly and maliciously, that's a whole other level. And that's where Shirley sits. But yeah, I imagine there's probably more fires, like any arsonist. Maybe they were unsuccessful. Maybe somebody came along and she stopped. Maybe she thought about it and then forgot about it. So but 17 they can tie her to.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Did she confess to anything new while you were corresponding?
Yes. She told me the truth about what happened the night she murdered a 2-year-old. And she also told me some new things on the fire she set in 1979 that killed both of her children.
It's bad enough talking about these people, their crimes, but when it impacts children, that just kills me.
Yeah.
Listen, every death, every murder, it is horrible, but that it just kills me. That's my kryptonite.
Yes. Mine is elderly people or animals. You can punch each other in the nose all day long. That's your business. But when you punch a dog in the nose, now I'm involved. But she did tell me in her mind what happened the night of the fire in 1979 where 2 of her children perished. And I looked at the crime scene photos, obviously the bodies of the little ones, and it was just very overwhelming to see that.
Yeah. Was it her, we may not know this, but was it her intention to kill them? Or was it a side effect of needing to set the fire?
She did set it on fire on purpose. And I asked her about the 17 known fires. Were they accidents? Did you set them on purpose? Were you thinking, I'm going to get insurance money? Well, unlike the majority of female serial killers, she wasn't going to get anything out of setting this fire. Nothing was insured. She put the kids to sleep, and the next thing you know, she's setting the fire. And the way she described it was almost like in a dream-like trance.
Right.
And some of it she honestly does not remember. I do believe that, because over the years I've asked her the same question in different ways. And she's always had the exact same answer. But did she set it on fire to also destroy the children? Yes, I believe so.
Oh.
Now, fast forward to when he murdered her third child. He was 5 months old. This was in 1980. I think that was an accident. I think that she was causing him, he was born a sickly baby, and she was causing him more harm by smothering him and then calling 911 and saying the baby stopped breathing. Shirley is addicted to chaos. It's not Munchausen. It's chaotic thoughts, beliefs. She is addicted to it. And I honestly think her 5-month-old baby in 1980 was an accident. Now, she will go to her grave saying she did not kill that baby. And I believe she thinks that and feels that because it was an accident. But the others she admitted to.
I understand. Yeah. If you thrive on that adrenaline rush where it is chaotic, you say, why can't people just behave themselves? What do they need this for? Well, normal life is kind of boring and ordinary. You get up in the morning, you have your coffee, you get dressed, take a shower, whatever, go to work, and you repeat the next day. It's kind of boring. And then you have joy and fun thrown in there. But if you are addicted to the unknown, to the random, and start to create that, feeding that need, I can see why that would happen. I don't get it myself. I like quiet. I like boring. I like quiet.
But yeah.
That's just so very sad. And you throw mental illness in on top of that these 3 children perished at her hands. It sounds to me like she has some conscience, that she apologized to you. She caught herself lying and apologized. Usually you think of serial killers as being psychopaths, and having a conscience is not strong on the psychopath checklist. But she sounds like she's got something.
Oh, I agree. Now, in November 2007, when she choked a 2-year-old to death, she told me every detail of that situation, of what she recalled. And she described it again almost like a dream state. I remember doing this. I remember doing that. Then I went and did this. And then here's what the family did. And I asked her also, because this happens too with fire setters. I said, what is it? Is it the ambulances, the fire trucks, the fire? People are running around, scrambling. It's a controlled chaos, so to speak. Lights, sirens, sounds. And she said, no, actually the sound of an ambulance or a fire truck unnerves her. She was being taken to an outside medical appointment, and the van had to pull over because an ambulance was going through, and she said her nerves were just shot hearing that sound.
She associates that with trauma, with stress.
Right. So, again, she's an interesting individual in that she just doesn't fit in these pockets that they've created for a typical or a type of, or that you have to have this many kinds of a checklist almost for serial killers and serial arsonists. And I talk about that in the book where I discuss arson, filicide, serial murder, and the difference of females and males. And I also discuss how she just doesn't fit into any of those.
Yeah, she's a bit of a conundrum.
Exactly. And she told me something also that nobody else was told. But when she was a child, she set her first known, I guess it would be an act of arson. Shirley likes to draw and such. And she drew a picture for school. And her mother was a master artist. Her mother said, oh, you did this and this wrong. And she said, well, but it's mine. Well, while she slept that night, her mother repaired the drawing. Shirley didn't know. She takes it to school. And then, she's thinking, I'm thinking maybe a B. He comes back with a 98. And she's looking at the picture, and that's not the picture that she drew. Her mother got in there overnight while Shirley slept and amended it.
Uh-oh.
And she was so embarrassed and so angry. And pretty soon the people at her mom's work were saying, "Oh, our little artist, here comes Shirley. That was a beautiful picture you did." And then the school, the teachers and everybody were just in awe. And they wanted to put it up on display, and she said no. Well, she took the drawing and she burned it. And so, fasting forward, and I asked her, okay, did you set fires out of anger? Did you set them frustration? What were you feeling? And she said, no, death is my trigger. Now, that goes back to in January of 1966. She had a brother who was 11, a sister who was 10, and another sister who was 4. Shirley was about 7. Into switching nights where Shirley got to spend the night with their grandparents because the kids would take turns spending the night at the grandparents. Well, Shirley tricked her sister, Joyce, into taking Joyce's turn. The 2 sisters get home. That night, there was a carbon monoxide leak, and the siblings and a few pets perished, and their mother was able to be revived. So she survived.
Oh, my God.
So since that time in 1966, Shirley has carried the guilt of that death because she tricked Joyce, into switching. Had they not, Joyce would have survived and the rest would have perished.
Oh, survivor's guilt under the best circumstances is still guilt.
Yep. Here's something interesting, though, that she really focuses on more than. In 1965, only a short time before the carbon monoxide leak, Shirley's sister Joyce was sitting on the counter, and they had, remember those old gas stoves where you turn the knob all the way around and it goes click, click, click with the fire, and if it didn't catch, you stuck a match under it? My grandmother had one.
Right.
Okay. So that's the kind of stove they had. Well, Joyce is sitting on the counter, and the story is she was kicking her legs, and she kicked the knob, which caused the burner to catch, and it caught Joyce's dress on fire. And Joyce ran outside, and a neighborhood girl, who was a Girl Scout, saw her, grabbed her, rolled her in the grass, followed through with her Girl Scout training, and saved her life. I think that sticks out more in Shirley's head, more so than losing her siblings. She goes back to that sometimes. At one point, she admitted she could have been responsible for that. Because if you think about it, those old stoves, I did a deep dive on stoves for this one. You had to turn that knob all the way around. Click, click, click. I can still hear it in my grandmother's house. And it ignites. Unless there's something wrong with the wiring, kicking that knob would not have done that.
Correct.
So she said to me, I could have done it. Which, when you interview someone and they say, I could have or I might have, that's usually a yes.
Yeah. That goes back to her being addicted to chaos.
Right. The chaos in the house started because they had a very abusive father and a very compliant mother. And after the 3 died in the gas leak and they almost lost their mother, Shirley's father became very abusive. And he would say to her, I wish it would have been you. You should have died in that fire, not my son. Why wasn't it you? Along with that comes physical, emotional, mental abuse, sexual abuse. And also, in an interesting turn, if Shirley would cough, they'd be rushing her to the emergency room because she probably had pneumonia. Okay, gets a clearance at the emergency room. No, she just coughed. What they would do is they would go to everybody's house afterwards and tell them this harrowing story of how Shirley was choking to death, and they rushed her to the ER because they thought it was pneumonia or bronchitis or, TB or something, and it was just a cough. And everybody would go, oh, wow, so thankful she's okay. She said, if I sneezed, my parents would say, oh, I hope it's not the flu. I hope it's not pneumonia. And they'd rush her to the doctor's office.
Little hypervigilance there.
Woo, yes. When she was older as a teen, this was a rural area, so you're always walking down the road to go to a friend's house. They would make her put reflective tape on her jacket and pants so that when she's walking down the road, the cars could see her. Hypervigilant, but at the same time, her father was so terribly abusive in so many ways. Nasty, nasty man.
Well, nothing for nothing. They're doing this because they've lost children. But what a way to keep the memory of that loss alive in Shirley.
Right. And one of the other things that they did was her mom started talking about ghosts a lot. Well, this is a 7-year-old kid, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. Shirley was terribly afraid of the dark, and she would force herself to stay awake until she was literally tottering. And then she would go to bed. Because at night, she would see a light on the wall or a reflection, and it would scare her. And her mother would say, "Oh, honey, that's just your sister or your brother making sure you're okay." Well, in a 9-year-old kid's mind, 8-year-old kid's mind, you're going, that's a ghost. And it scared her.
I guess on the surface, it sounds comforting that your siblings aren't gone. They're looking, from beyond, they're looking and they're checking you out. With the hypervigilance, if she's being reminded, you can die at any moment. People die. It's random. These things happen. I can see where that gets turned into something that is not at all comforting.
Correct. And then her mother decided that one of the kids was speaking to Shirley or through her, so they took her to a psychic, and they talked a lot about death and dying and the aftermath. And when she was a little older, she would walk down the road and pick up frogs and snakes and squirrels and stuff that were dead, put them in a box, and have a funeral for them.
Sounds a little Dahmer-esque.
Yes. Yes. She found, I think, some comfort in being able to give this dead creature a proper burial, I guess would be the word. But on the other hand, she also dabbled a bit in animal torture, but it upset her so badly that it was 1 or 2 times, and then that was it for her.
Her trigger is death, is dying. You can see the roots where this is going to manifest in her later behavior.
Exactly. And that was what, I don't want to say interested because that sounds, but in a clinical sense, it interested me how that all came about. The night that she choked the little boy to death in 2007, the day before, she was recently released from prison. She was on parole, and she had found out that a good friend had died. She called a good friend. She said, "How are you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine." "How's the husband?" "Oh, he passed away several months ago." And that stuck with her. And the next thing you know, she choked a baby to death. Now, I do want people to understand too, I am not in any way condoning her action. I'm not giving an excuse. I'm saying that if we don't understand these kinds of things and what creates this kind of person, we're not getting it. We're so reactive and we're not proactive. It needs to be the other way around. And I told Shirley, I said, if you tell me something that you did behind bars or what have you that's illegal or against the rules, I will report you. And if you tell me about a new crime that no one else knows about, I will report you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very clear in the beginning. I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't a friend. I'm listening to what she has to tell me.
Oh, I agree with you. Believe me, I'm not explaining away that she has reasons for doing what she did, but I do want to try to understand what influenced what is happening in her life. Because you're right. If we don't understand these behaviors, people who come later, we're not going to understand their behaviors either.
And it comes down to what, I don't want to blame it on her childhood. I don't want to blame it on her substance abuse. Exactly. It's a combination of all of the above. And even some of her victim survivors said, I don't like what she did, but I felt bad for her. And a lot of people wouldn't talk to me or talk to me on the promise of anonymity because they were afraid of her.
Huh.
Because they said, I don't want my house to be next if she gets out.
Is there a chance she's going to get out?
That's hard to gauge. They're trying to find a place that will accept her. But I honestly don't see it happening simply because, she has been incarcerated for a long time. She has a lot of issues. I honestly don't see them releasing her, but given this day and age and what's going on in our courts and such, it could happen. Madness by saying, oh yeah, she's going to get out,
Well, I mean, none of us can know the future, but to know that there is this possibility exists is a little terrifying.
I honestly believe that if she was released, she would do it again, simply because that is her life now. She would be responsible for taking her medication correctly, which she never has done, and for following the rules of parole, which she never has done. So I honestly don't see her lasting outside. Plus, she's gotten so used to the system. I mean, she even told me that she preferred at one time the prison to the mental health hospital. Now, that's a huge change because the food is different, the environment is different, the treatment is different. It's a whole different kind of cat.
That's really interesting. I can see why you were interested in writing a book on this.
It intrigued me, and, I thought again long and hard before I decided to do this, like with all my books, because I don't write to entertain, I write to educate. And so I did a long look into this thinking, what could we learn from this? What could we get from this? How is this going to better us as criminologists, as psychologists, as people who are interested in making a change? What can we change? And I honestly believe that if you treat a child like crap, 50% of the time you're going to get crap back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what they learn to expect and associate with human behavior. It's crap.
And her father was just a ruthless individual. But on the same time, just like all of the other abusers, he had a very kind side. And her mother was very compliant because she was supposed to be. That was the times. Very brilliant woman. Had a lot of talent. But somewhere along the line, she learned that in the household, the man is the king, and you do what he says, and you put up with it. When he would abuse the children, he would sort of stand to the side, and then when he would totter off drunk or what have you, she would sneak in and sneak them food and kisses and hugs and such.
You had said that Shirley was somewhat artistic herself. Has she kept up with her art?
She does the adult coloring books. I'm always a little scared to say that because that sounds bad, adult coloring books, But my mom used to do those too, and it's more mature photos, obviously, of animals and people and seasons and, celebrations. So she does a lot of pencil art and color pencil art with those. And then she's also doing something called diamond dots. Mm-hmm. And she has sent me a lot of diamond dot art and color pencil, adult coloring books art and such.
Is she selling this?
No.
Okay.
No, she has sent me pieces. She did a diamond dot art of my cat. I have a Sphinx cat. And I told her about Zoya because Zoya was adopted and she was terribly abused. And so I've kind of kept her up on how Zoya is doing. And she sent me a diamond dot that looked just like Zoya.
Aww.
So she does things like that, but no, she would not sell like that. She stays on the lower, she's been offered interviews and magazine covers and such from the murderabilia collectors, and she will not sell anything. She won't agree to any interviews. The family was contacted by some murderabilia folks, and her husband said to a friend, "Can you believe people do that?" So I thought that's just not right to contact the family like that and ask them for things.
No. No, the families have got to be treated with care and respect and dignity. No, that's not right.
It's interesting too, because she was telling me, she said she was talking to a nurse about something, and the nurse said, well, let's see. And she said she looked it up on her watch and found the answer. And I said, oh, that's an Apple Watch. And I told her about it, and I was telling her a little bit about, is it Surrey? Surrey, can you close the window? And she said, well, that seems kind of lazy. So it's interesting that she's not even that aware of the times, I guess is the word.
Technology has outpaced her knowledge bandwidth.
Oh, definitely. And she was telling me she wanted to go on, they have outings at the hospital. And she said, I can't believe how much food costs now. It's like she was in a time warp, like a lot of prisoners are. But again, she really didn't keep up with things like that. I've seen her watch the news more now and comment on the politics of things, but very, very rarely. So she's kind of like in this little bubble. She's told me, I want to be well. She'll never be normal. She just wants to be well.
Well, at least she realizes that. Sounds like she realizes being somewhere, whether it's a hospital or kept in prison, is a better environment for her.
Sometimes. And then there are times where she's like, I want out of here. I want my own house. I want to walk to the store and buy groceries. I want to watch TV, things that everybody does normally. And then other times, I think she realizes that that's the safest place for her.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
She knows what kind of chaos that she's going to cause by being released. And she told me at one point, she said, I saw myself on the news and people hate me.
And understandably, I kind of understand that. She's kind of terrifying.
Now, here's what's interesting. A few years ago, her very best friend's house burned down to the ground. Faulty heating system. And she had to admit herself into the psych unit for a while and such, and have her meds adjusted. And I asked her, how do you feel about that woman's house being lost in a fire, and the woman and her husband of 50-some years were killed in the fire? And she said, well, it was bad, and you'll see that sometimes with those old stoves. But how do you feel about it being a fire? And she wasn't making the connection.
Oh, no, she doesn't realize there's the emotional loss there.
She didn't go to any type of higher education. She didn't finish high school. She's not the most educated individual, and she's more streetwise than anything, or prison-wise, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
But still a very childlike quality inside of her. Now, there's also the manipulator, the fire setter, the serial killer, but she also has that one small quality of her life that's just very limited in thought. You set 17 plus fires. You killed people in these fires. You almost killed people. Now your very best friend and her husband died in a fire. How do you feel about that? And she's not making the connection. She doesn't have the cognitive sense to put it all together.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, it must be Tuesday.
Exactly.
So, Judith, this sounds fascinating to me. When is the book coming out?
I'm looking at a summer release. Now, this happens with all my books. I have found some images for the book that I really want in there because it gives you a feel for what things looked like, for how they felt, the damage that was done. And because these images are owned by a newspaper or a profit organization, they have a user's fee. Starts at $200 an image.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get to where I can add those images in. And then I did this with my last book, Irma Greza, The Hyena of Auschwitz. You're not just the reader to me. You're the person who's sharing this story. And I get to thinking, okay, how can we share this story together? Well, if you were part of this book. And just like with the Irma Greza book, I started a Kickstarter for the book about Shirley Winters. And there's a few tiers. You can buy a signed book. All of the books you can get early before they go public. And on the highest tier, you can get a piece of artwork that Shirley did. That's the only time I'm releasing them. And they are in my private collection.
That sounds fascinating, and I think that is such a smart idea.
Well, thank you. And, again, right now it's really tough for indie authors and indie publishers. Books aren't exactly the number one purchase that people are thinking of right now. So it's tough on us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want to share this story. I want people to be a part of this story. And I thought, well, why not a Kickstarter? And then a few other authors said, well, I tried that. I did that with my films. I did that with my books. And so that's where I'm at right now. And I purposely set the bar low, I guess I should say, because I know people don't have, $200, $500
right.
to throw at a project. So.
Good. Tell us, how do we contribute?
There's two ways. You can go to my website, which is truecrimebook.net, or the easiest way is go to Kickstarter and search Shadows and Fire book. Or, you can find me on Facebook and ask for a link also.
Well, be assured I will be putting all links possible on my blog when I drop this episode, because I think this is a book that has to be out there, and I want you to be able to include the pictures, because pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Oh, exactly. I can tell you all about the damage that fire did to a house and describe that, at night. And here's all these firefighters, volunteers, by the way, digging through this and trying to find answers and trying to ensure that everyone is safe outside of it, because the fire was catching into the trees. You see that. You feel it.
Mm-hmm. Well, all this damage that was done and that she did to people, to property, to animals in some cases, the pictures, I get it. It's really valuable to understand the whole context.
Right. Now, I do not include any autopsy photos or any photos of dead people in my books. I refuse. Because that's somebody's kid, that's somebody's mom, that's somebody's friend.
I just think that's unethical.
Right. I made an exception with my last book, Irma Greza, Becoming the Hyena of Auschwitz. I made that exception because I wanted people to see the environment where Irma was arrested. She is standing in the middle of thousands of corpses, and she's pissed off because they're arresting her.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it's out of 40-something images, there's maybe 2. Because again, every one of those people lying there and those stats are family members and loved ones of somebody.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to take advantage of that. It's tacky. I'm very excited about this Kickstarter. We're halfway there. I want to get the book out there in people's hands. I want them to see what and how she's been called a monster. What creates this type of person? Not to feel sorry for her, not to rally around and get her, exonerated or what have you, but to see why things like this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think it's such a good way to also remember who her victims were. I've never heard of this woman. I've been in true crime for 40 years. I've never heard of this woman.
Right. And her victims were kids.
Yeah.
Little kids. And we hear this, I can't believe a mother would kill her own children or would kill children. Because I couldn't do that. Well, you cannot judge someone's crime by what you would do. I couldn't kill an animal, but I come from a family of hunters. Some of us, and I discussed this also in the Irma Greza book, some of us can swat a fly and not feel a thing. And then a very small percentage of people in this country could kill multiple people and not feel a thing.
These things would never enter our minds. So we are not going to be able to understand the mechanisms in the minds of serial killers that enables them to be able to do this. I have studied the research. I've read incredibly. I've taken courses, classes, and I'll sit there and I will explain, see how this combination of things came together, perfect storm, created a serial killer. And yet we can't comprehend it because our brains, our experiences, they're not structured that way. So it just leaves you with a sense of, but why do they do that? The whys keep coming back. It is a fascination. I want to know why she did what she did too, believe me.
It's interesting because you can never tie it down to one thing. Bad childhood.
Right.
Well, who didn't have one, Substance abuse. This country is full of substance abusers. Mental illness.
It is still a fraction of the population that winds up as serial killers. And an even smaller fraction are women who become serial killers.
There you go. She was going to court on one fire she set, and during court proceedings, she set another.
I don't mean to laugh, but like, what the hell?
You're in court, lady.
Oh my God.
There were 3 attempts to burn down her home. The third one is when she burned it to the ground. And in between, she was calling in fake burglaries. She was making calls to the police, to the fire department. You look into this, and in all this madness that is her life, we were discussing her mom's death. Her mom was driving, of course, this is up in Syracuse, New York, where it gets cold. And I don't mean cold like, better get a sweater. I mean like, so
frigid. Her
mom's car slid on black ice and went into a pole. And she was killed, not outright, but eventually she succumbed to the injuries. And Shirley writes to me, she says, that black ice is a killer. And then she was talking about, I always loved babies. I loved carrying babies around. I loved taking care of them. But she was also, behind the scenes, abusing them because she would poke them with needles to make them cry. She'd trip them to make them fall down. She pushed one little boy into the lake. But she's telling me, I just always loved kids. So it's really an interesting look into this mental conundrum, I guess is the best word to say it. But yeah, she says that black ice is a killer.
Well, I am very much looking forward to reading this. I think it's going to be a fascinating story. And I want to thank you for coming on the Murder Shelf Book Club podcast to talk about it.
Well, thank you for allowing me. I like your podcast because it's not an entertainment. It's more educational. It's not 2 people yucking it up about somebody getting hurt or killed. That's just sad. But what you're doing is you're taking these books that are educating people and you're saying, hey, look at this. And here's the story behind it. So I sure appreciate you.
Well, thank you, because that is exactly what I try to do. I don't just pick any old book. I try to teach something. It's my teacher background. I can't get away from it. But I also try to be as truthful and accurate and respectful as I can during the process. But thank you for noticing. I appreciate that. I have to ask you this. Do you have another book planned? I mean, you're in the midst of trying to get this one out. Dare I even ask?
This is my last one.
Okay.
This is how it goes. Ring. Hello. Judith, this is such and such. Yeah. Have I got a book subject for you? You will be a billionaire. You will be a bestseller author on New York Times. I swear to you. This is the story. Okay. What is it? An hour later. So what do you think? And I'm like, well, you know all about it. Why don't you? Oh, I can't write. But nonetheless, this is going to be my last one for a while. For one thing, I'm going back to try and finish my PhD.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So I understand. Take a break and do what you got to do. And yeah. Okay. Then thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hearing about you being a bestseller on the New York Times list.
Okay. I'll work on it. All right, my love. Well, be good.
All right. Yeah. Be good now. Bye-bye. All right, so I really enjoyed chatting with Judith. I always appreciate her insights that she shares with us. And I encourage you to help her out with her Kickstarter. It has a few days left. Adding the photographs associated with Shirley Winters is really an important part of understanding the scope of her crimes. So in a Post-Standard article from 2024, DA Bill Fitzpatrick said this of Shirley Winters, quote, "She likes to set fires and she likes to kill kids. You can't cure whatever psychosis she has in her mind," end quote. So Shadows in Fire will be out just in time for the pool or oceanside reading. And I have links on my blog at www.murdershelfbookclub.com, April 2026, to find all of this information. Thank you for listening. I hear you as you hear me. Our next book is The Caretaker's Game by Charles Wallace. It is not about a homicide or a serial killer, but it still explores a frightening and devastating crime committed against some of the most vulnerable members of our society, the elderly, especially those suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. When adult children, often living a goodly distance away, recognize that a parent needs assistance, finding a reliable caregiver is crucial, allowing some peace of mind, knowing that their loved one is in good hands. Well, this is the story of Joelle Fleming, Charles Wallace's mother. Her caretaker smiled and saw to everything and quietly seized control of everything. Charles Wallace and his siblings were completely unaware that anything was wrong until it was too late. Over the course of 3 years, more than $1 million vanished from their fiercely independent mother's accounts after she placed her trust in her caregiver, Esmeralda Gomez. This shocking revelation sends Charles on a quest to uncover the truth. Now, this book is not a tale of woe, but you will empathize with Charles as he sifts through emails, accounts, and passwords, and finding the professionals involved in search for answers. It is a cautionary tale that everyone with aging parents should heed, and I certainly did. The Caregiver's Game is part forensic investigation, part family memoir, and part practical warning for families with elderly parents. And a special thanks to my Patreon murder bookies for helping me choose this unusual but important true crime book. And announcement. I have something very special for you murder bookies. I am excited to announce a Michael Kors giveaway. And here's how it works. You write a review of Aphrodite Jones's new book, Dog of War. Upload your review to Amazon or Goodreads. Take a screenshot and visit her website at www.aphroditejones.com/contact-us. If you get to her page, the tab is under Contact and Giveaways. Now, upload the screenshot and fill out the form for a chance to win a stunning Michael Kors purse. You can find out all the details on my Patreon, and I've also posted about it on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The deadline for entries is Mother's Day, May 10th, 2026, so you have plenty of time. Do not miss out on this opportunity. This is just so much fun. Additionally, I will be releasing my interview with Aphrodite Jones about Dog of War shortly. My review on it is already available on Amazon and Goodreads and on my blog at www.murdershelfbookclub.com, April 2026. So good luck, murder bookies, and let me know who wins. So I am gearing up for CrimeCon 2026 in Las Vegas the end of May. Please come by and see me on Creators Row and meet my minion, my assistant, Michelle, who has been a great help to me. I'll have swag and stories, and we need to take some photos. Our CrimeCon meetup is Thursday, May 28th, after the kickoff party in the lobby bar. That's the big one by the reception desk at 10 p.m. I cannot wait to see you. It's going to be a reunion. My sources, my photographs, and information links are on my blog, as I told you, and you can contact me at jill@murdershelfbookclub.com or connect with me on X, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Additionally, you can join my Patreon for $2 to $4 a month to help me choose the next book I'll feature, and I am doing my serial killer case studies. My next episode will be out shortly. Trust your guts, murder bookies. Written and produced by Jill, all rights reserved. Music, The Pewter Elephant by Blue Dot Sessions.